If you look at the trajectory of technology over the last 20 years or so, there is this almost unquestioned assumption about where we're heading.
Right, yeah. Like this sci-fi movie narrative.
Exactly. The assumption is that the end goal of all human innovation is to just pull us completely out of the physical world.
Right.
I mean, we started with text on a screen, and then
Yeah.
we moved to carrying that screen in our pockets.
And now it's virtual reality headsets.
Yeah. The biggest tech companies are essentially saying, put these on, build an avatar, and frankly, you never have to leave your living room again.
It really is the operating thesis of modern Silicon Valley right now.
It totally is.
The whole assumption is that physical reality is it's inefficient, it's messy, it's limited by geography.
Yeah, totally.
Whereas the digital world, like the metaverse, is infinite and frictionless. So the progression of social tech just has to be a progression toward digital isolation.
But, occasionally you stumble onto a piece of source material that just completely shatters that assumption.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what we have today. Welcome to this deep dive. We're looking at a roadmap that looks at that inevitable march toward the metaverse, slams on the brakes, and attempts to throw the entire vehicle in reverse.
That's a fascinating document.
It really is. So we're looking at a highly eclectic, incredibly layered document dated May 5, 2026.
From a site called Netizen, right?
Yeah, run by an author named Paramendra Kumarabugger. And this blog post is a comprehensive roadmap for the past, present, and wildly ambitious future of how you, me, and everyone else actually socializes.
Because what we're really examining here is the architecture of a technological counter-movement.
A counter-movement. I like that phrase.
Yeah, it's a detailed look at how technology, which initially democratized and, cheapened communication, is now being reverse-engineered.
Reverse-engineered to do what, exactly?
To restore the formality, the friction, and the verified intimacy of real-world gatherings.
So I want you, yes, you listening right now, to mentally pull up your own social calendar. Think about your inbox.
Think about all those invites.
Right. How many casual links for a flyer or highly formal, beautifully designed paperless post emails have you opened over the years?
Probably dozens. Or hundreds.
Exactly. And more crucially, how much of your actual social life, the moments where you physically put on a jacket and left your house, was silently orchestrated by the design architecture of this one specific platform?
It's a great question to keep in mind.
So keep that in your head, because we really need to start this journey back in 2008.
Right, with a launch strategy that honestly made absolutely no sense at the time.
None at all. Because the origins of paperless post are vital here. The founders, Alexa Hirschfeld and her brother, fundamentally rejected the conventional wisdom of the era.
They launched a digital product that deliberately introduced friction.
Which is wild. Let's just ground this in the reality of 2008. The iPhone is brand new.
Twitter's exploding.
Facebook is conquering college campuses. The holy grail for every developer was, quote, democratizing communication.
Which just meant making everything instant and casual.
And above all, completely free. And into this environment, Paperless Post drops a concept that asks users to pay a micro fee.
Yeah, to send a digital invitation that looks like heavy stock, custom printed stationery.
Right, which the recipient then has to digitally open out of a virtual envelope.
It's so counterintuitive.
It is. That is the equivalent of trying to sell a velvet rope to people who are already standing inside an open-air public park. It felt completely backward.
Why would anyone pay for friction when email is free, right?
Exactly. Why did it work?
Because they understood a psychological truth that the rest of the tech industry had just kind of blinded itself to.
Which is?
When the medium changes, human nature does not automatically follow suit. Organizing a meaningful event is an act of vulnerability.
That's a good point. You're asking people for their time.
Exactly. And hosts care immensely about how they present themselves. Formality is a signal.
Right. So if I send you a generic plain text email saying, hey, come over Friday.
The implicit message is that the event is optional. It's casual. If you don't show up, it's no big deal.
But if I hand you an engraved, wax-sealed envelope, you physically adjust your posture. You realize there are actual stakes.
Precisely. Paperless Post realized that you could digitize that social weight.
The design, the envelope animation, the small monetary cost to the host.
These aren't bugs. They are features.
Right.
They signal to the guest that effort was expended and therefore attention is required.
Yeah.
They were literally selling the digital equivalent of social consequence.
Yeah, and there's a moment in the source text that proves how incredibly well that psychological bet paid off.
The Condoleezza Rice anecdote.
Yes. The founders discovered, completely by accident just reading a news story, that Condoleezza Rice, who was the Secretary of State at the time, used their platform.
For her White House farewell party.
Which is insane.
It's the ultimate stress test for a digital product's aesthetic credibility.
It's more than just a fun celebrity anecdote. I mean, think about the environment of a White House farewell party.
Statecraft is entirely about protocol.
Exactly. The highest levels of the federal government operate on deeply entrenched traditions. Not to mention intense security and privacy requirements.
Right. You can't just use any random startup for that.
No. So for the Secretary of State to bypass the traditional physical engraving process of Washington, D.C. and trust a newly launched startup, it means the platform successfully solved a massive paradox.
They proved that online convenience did not require the sacrifice of offline prestige.
Beautifully put. It established a cultural gold standard immediately.
Because if the visual weight and the privacy architecture are robust enough for international diplomats...
They're definitely robust enough for a 50th birthday party or a bridal shower.
Exactly.
But building that gold standard in 2008 didn't lead to a smooth, linear climb. The document details a pretty brutal pivot a few years later.
It really exposes the sheer logistical agony of scaling a company.
Yeah, because by 2012, despite having the word paperless literally in their name, the company launched paper by paperless post.
They actually started printing physical goods.
Which was a response to an overwhelming signal from their user base, right?
Yeah, the text notes that roughly 60% of their customer service queries were people designing digital invitations and then asking how they could physically print them out.
See, I look at that and I think about the ego of a typical tech founder.
Oh, they would have hated it.
Most would look at those queries and say, no, you don't understand. We are disrupting paper. We don't do printers.
Right, but they swallowed their pride and adapted.
They really did. And by Christmas of 2012, this physical printing division is generating millions.
Within a few years, they're one of the biggest custom stationery businesses in the United States.
They have warehouses, logistics chains, massive printers. They are a physical behemoth.
And then we hit May 2017 in the source material, where they make a completely ruthless decision.
They shut it down.
Entirely.
They license all their designs to an outside print expert called PaperSource, lay off their entire internal physical paper team, and exit the printing logistics business completely.
It's a massive shift.
The text actually includes a quote from Alexa Hirschfeld calling this the most difficult part of the journey.
Expressing deep regret over the layoffs, yeah.
Right, and wishing they had made the structural change sooner. But from a pure business perspective, I'm kind of struggling to understand why you would intentionally amputate a limb of your company that is successfully generating millions of dollars in revenue.
Well, it comes down to the fundamental difference between scaling physical atoms versus scaling digital bits.
Okay, unpack that for me.
The text outlines the brutal economic logic. First, online profit margins are roughly 3 times higher than physical goods.
Wow, 3 times.
Wow. When you print paper, you pay for the paper, the ink, the shipping, the warehouse, the ruined stock.
But when you send a digital file, the marginal cost is practically zero.
Exactly. So you're keeping way more of every dollar you make.
That makes sense. What's the second reason?
Second is the concept of total addressable market, or TAM. Think of TAM as the absolute maximum size a business can grow if it captures every single potential customer. A physical printing business has a relatively low ceiling because it's limited by shipping times, international borders, and physical manufacturing capacity.
But software has a virtually infinite ceiling.
Right. And the third reason.
That's the third reason.
Viral acquisition. This is the real masterstroke.
Okay, how so?
If I buy 50 beautiful physical invitations from you and mail them out, my 50 guests look at the card, think it's pretty, and stick it on their fridge. The transaction is over.
Right, it's a dead end.
But if I send 50 digital invitations, those guests have to click a link, enter your digital ecosystem, experience the user interface, and interact with the software to RSVP.
Oh, wow. Your product is marketing itself to 50 new potential customers for free every single time a host uses it.
Exactly. Physical paper was actually suffocating that viral growth engine.
So they had to destroy the physical logistics business to save the software business.
Yeah, they did.
And that trauma seemingly led to a massive reevaluation of what the company even was. Alexa is quoted directly in the text, and this is a crucial sentence. She says, quote, "We realize that we are not even just an invitation company. We use design and technology to help people gather more easily and confidently in real life."
They finally decoupled their identity from the mechanism.
Right.
They stopped viewing themselves as a delivery system for cards and started viewing themselves as the infrastructure for the gathering itself.
Which explains the launch of Flyer, their product aimed at much more casual events.
And their aggressive shift toward mobile.
Yeah, suddenly half their traffic is on phones, and
Right.
people want to RSVP via WhatsApp or SMS, not just email.
They are pivoting from being digital stationers to becoming event logisticians.
But to really grasp how this company plans to own human connection over the next decade, we can't just look at their corporate history. We have to look at the mind of the architect.
We really do. The document spends a significant amount of time analyzing Alexa Hirschfeld's digital footprint, specifically on Twitter or X.
And the persona that emerges is the absolute antithesis of the stereotypical tech CEO.
It really is.
I am so glad the author of this blog included these tweets because they're basically anthropological artifacts.
Yeah, because most tech founders use social media as a relentless megaphone.
Oh, it's just a barrage of optimization threads, aggressive self-promotion, and utopian claims about how their software is saving humanity.
But her feed is described as low volume, understated, and intensely observant. It's primarily short, dry replies.
Let's dig into these because they form the philosophical bedrock for the company's massive 10-year roadmap we're going to discuss later.
Okay, which one first?
Take this one from July 2019. She tweets, "I deleted Instagram this week because, as Sartre said, hell is other people's vacations."
That is just a brilliant adaptation of existential philosophy to modern digital fatigue.
It really is.
Jean-Pierre Sartre's original quote, "Hell is other people," is about how our self-perception is agonizingly shaped by the judgment of others. By applying that to Instagram vacations, she is critiquing the entire foundation of highly curated, broadcast-style social media.
Because Instagram forces you to consume an idealized artificial highlight reel of someone else's life.
Which inevitably induces envy and isolation.
She is essentially saying that looking at a perfectly filtered photo of someone else having fun is an actively miserable experience.
It's a complete rejection of passive digital consumption.
Which perfectly aligns with a business that wants you to close the app and go physically sit in a room with your friends.
Exactly. There's also a deep skepticism toward the performative nature of corporate Silicon Valley.
Oh, the Chamath Palihapitiya reply. This is incredible.
I love this one.
Chamath, a very prominent venture capitalist, posts this sweeping praise for Shopify because they instituted a strict no meetings policy to eliminate corporate bureaucracy.
Classic tech bro thought leadership, praising flat structures.
Right. Alexa quote tweets him and simply asks, "So if you invite someone to a one-on-one, can you also see their salary?"
That is a surgical strike on corporate hypocrisy.
So sharp.
Because tech companies constantly invent these highly visible, performative transparency measures, like banning meetings or installing open-plan offices just to appear egalitarian.
But she immediately slices through that by pointing to the only metric of transparency that actually matters.
Compensation.
Yes. She's highlighting that these companies claim to be perfectly flat and transparent while fiercely guarding the ultimate arbiter of power and value. She does not buy the hype.
She also doesn't take herself too seriously, which is pretty rare in that environment.
Oh, you're talking about the power washing tweet.
Yes. So someone tweets using the term power washing. Now, in the context of a driveway or a deck, we all know what that means.
Right.
But she replies, lol. At first, I thought that by power washing, you were using a political term like greenwashing or whitewashing. Delighted to realize what you meant.
It's such a moment of grounded self-awareness. When you live in the media and tech bubble, your brain literally becomes rewired to interpret every phrase as socio-political jargon.
Yeah, so admitting that she temporarily forgot about the mundane physical act of spraying water on concrete shows an ability to step outside her own echo chamber.
Which brings us to her linguistic observations. For someone running a company where the core product relies on typography, phrasing, and elegant text on a digital card, she is fiercely protective of language.
She really is.
She talks about Tom Hanks's accent in the movie Captain Phillips. She questions why British English uses the word jab for a vaccine.
And my absolute favorite is her reply to the food magazine Bon Appetit.
Oh, read that one.
She writes, I've kept my mouth shut for garlicky, lemony, jammy, etc., but brazy, instead of braised, has gone too far for me. I can no longer be silent.
You can totally see the mind of an editor at work there.
Because brazy isn't just a silly word.
Hmm?
To her, it's an aesthetic failure.
Right. It's an imprecise, infantile modification of a perfectly good culinary term.
If your business is built on helping people present themselves elegantly, You have to care deeply about the structural integrity of language.
She also applies that same skepticism to massive financial manias. During the height of the digital hype cycles, she tweets, "How can I mute crypto Twitter? I didn't ask for it."
And later, during the meme stock frenzy, she complains, "My feed has become unbearable since this GameStop revolution."
Notice the common thread there. Crypto, the metaverse, meme stocks, these are all internet native phenomenons built entirely on abstraction.
They are about virtual wealth, virtual spaces, virtual disruption.
Her instinct isn't to figure out how to monetize the frenzy. Her instinct is to figure out how to turn the noise off so she can get back to reality.
That's a great way to put it.
I do need to pause for a second here, though, just as a quick aside for you listening. The source material mapping out her digital footprint also includes several of her political observations.
Right, we should mention that.
She jokes about Rudy Giuliani looking like Terminal B of Newark Airport. She notes during the 2020 election that who the president is makes a big difference, referencing Biden and Trump. And she critiques the stock market spiking on news that implies environmental damage.
Yeah, so just to be incredibly clear to our listeners, we are looking at this blog archive to map out the worldview of the founder and the author, and we have to report what's in the text to do that accurately.
Exactly. But we aren't here to endorse or co-sign any of those specific political takes. We're just analyzing how her mind works and what the sources say.
Neutral observers here.
Exactly. So moving on. When you synthesize all of those data points, the linguistic precision, the rejection of corporate jargon, the disdain for digital abstraction, a very clear philosophy emerges.
Yeah, there's a tweet quoted in the blog from another user that perfectly encapsulates the environment she is rebelling against. It says VCs pivoting from AI back to metaverse.
Meaning venture capitalists just mindlessly chasing whatever digital trend is currently hot.
Exactly. Alexa Hirschfeld's entire public persona is a rejection of that unmoored, trend-chasing reality.
She does not want to upload human consciousness into a virtual headset.
No, she views technology purely as a utility. A hammer is useful for building a physical house, but it is not the house itself.
She wants to use digital tools to optimize physical existence.
And that philosophy is the engine driving the most ambitious part of this document.
Yes. The blog details the 2026 to 2036 Gather product roadmap. And this isn't just an update to an app.
No, this is a 10-year master plan to transition paperless post into something called Gather Inc.
And the goal is to build a $100 billion infrastructure that monopolizes real-life human connection.
They are basically attempting to scale the core mechanics of event planning into an entirely new category of social network.
Let's break down the mechanics of this because it happens in 4 distinct phases. Phase 1 covers the years 2026 to 2027, and it's focused on foundations.
They plan to merge the formal paperless post platform and the casual flyer app into one unified AI-assisted ecosystem.
Right, so it handles everything. RSVPs, digital ticketing, splitting the cost of a rental, messaging guests, running polls.
But the linchpin of this entire phase, and frankly the whole 10-year plan, is the introduction of what they call the attended social layer.
This is a profound structural shift in how a social network operates. In today's digital landscape, social graphs are built on passive observation.
Right. You follow a celebrity, a stranger, or an old high school classmate, and you consume their content without ever interacting with them in the real world.
Parasocial relationships are just the default. I can have 50,000 followers and be sitting alone in a dark room.
Correct. The attended layer obliterates that dynamic.
How so?
On Gather Inc., you can only connect with someone or add them to your social graph if you have physically co-attended an event with them in the real world.
Wait, I really want to make sure I understand the mechanics of this. I can't just search for a friend's name, find their profile, and hit request to connect.
Nope.
I can't build an audience of people who just think my jokes are funny.
No. The system strictly requires attendance verification.
It's literally a digital VIP room. And the only way past the algorithm is to have a verified receipt that you stood in the same physical room as the other person.
The friction is the point. Traditional networks suffer from an eventual collapse of trust. Think about the bots, the trolls, the catfishing, the completely fabricated personas.
Right.
Because growth is frictionless, the network becomes bloated with artificiality. By aggressively gating the network behind physical attendance, verified by localized check-ins, host confirmations, or shared photos, Gather guarantees an absolute baseline of trust.
So when you view a profile on this platform, you know with absolute certainty that this is a tangible human being.
And you know exactly which physical space you shared with them.
I see the value in that, but from a business perspective, isn't that incredibly risky? The entire playbook of Silicon Valley is frictionless, exponential growth.
Yet, usually it is.
So if you force people to leave their house to get a follower, aren't you artificially crippling your own user base?
You are trading sheer velocity for unprecedented retention. A massive network of unverified strangers is difficult to monetize beyond basic advertising because the engagement is so shallow.
That makes sense.
But a smaller network built entirely on verified, real-world social ties is incredibly dense. It has massive utility.
And in phase one, they're also launching an AI party generator that helps hosts build budgets and themes alongside a vendor marketplace for local caterers, DJs, and photographers, right?
Yes, when the trust is that high, users are willing to actually spend money within the ecosystem.
And that bedrock of trust is what allows them to pull off phase two. This covers 2028 to 2030, and it is where things get genuinely wild.
They take that verified attended graph
Yeah.
and they enter the dating market.
They introduce a module called Spark.
This is the feature that single-handedly justifies a massive portion of their future valuation.
If I am understanding the document correctly, Spark is a dating interface where you can only match with people you have co-attended an event with,
That's right.
meaning the entire concept of swiping through a geographic radius of random strangers is just gone.
Gone. To understand why this is so revolutionary, you have to look at the massive fatigue currently plaguing traditional dating apps.
Oh, the fatigue is real.
For anyone listening who has spent time on these platforms, you know the structural flaws. There are deep safety concerns, overwhelming decision fatigue, and an epidemic of flakiness.
Ghosting is incredibly common because there are zero social consequences for ignoring a stranger you met on an interface. You share no mutual friends. You share no context.
You are essentially interacting with a trading card, not a human.
Exactly. But on Spark, the architecture solves those problems before a message is even sent.
Because if you match with someone, the platform is verifying a shared reality. You both attended the same pottery workshop, the same friend's birthday dinner, or the same indie music showcase.
That implies a shared aesthetic or mutual social ties right off the bat.
The ice is inherently broken because you can talk about the event. And crucially, bad behavior is mitigated because the social stakes are higher.
Right, because you might run into them at the next mutual event.
Exactly.
I'm kind of stuck on one technical detail here, though. The document says this dating module relies on, quote, zero knowledge proofs for attendance to ensure user privacy.
Yeah, that's a big concept.
I mean, I'm familiar with the term from the crypto world, but how does that actually work for a dating app? If the system has to prove I was at a party, doesn't it have to track my every move?
That is the beauty of a zero-knowledge proof.
Yeah.
Let's just step away from the jargon for a second. Imagine you are trying to buy a drink at a bar, and the bouncer needs to know you are over 21.
Okay.
Normally, you hand over your driver's license. The bouncer now knows your exact birth date, your home address, your height, whether you are an organ donor.
Right. You had to reveal a massive amount of private information just to prove one binary fact.
A zero-knowledge proof is the mathematical equivalent of a bouncer who has a special scanner. The scanner simply flashes green if you're over 21 and red if you are not.
Oh, wow.
The bouncer learns the one piece of information he needs, that you are of legal age, but he gains zero knowledge about your address or your actual birthday.
That makes total sense. So in the context of Gather and the Spark dating app, how is that applied?
When you go to an event, your device securely interacts with the venue or the host's system. Later, when you are on the Spark app, the system can cryptographically prove to another user, yes, this person was at the gallery opening on Thursday night.
But it does this without logging your continuous GPS coordinates.
Without revealing what time you left, who you arrived with, or where you slept that night.
It proves the shared reality without building a surveillance apparatus.
It is the ultimate synthesis of trust and privacy.
That is legitimately brilliant. So by 2030, they have monopolized the casual gathering space, built a highly trusted social graph, and created a dating app that actually respects human context.
Which leads right into phase 3, spanning 2031 to 2033.
And this is where the scale shifts dramatically. They move from dinner parties to massive experiences.
They transition from consumer utility to enterprise infrastructure.
The roadmap talks about managing logistics for massive festivals, sprawling tech conferences, and stadium-sized sports watch parties.
They introduce digital tickets backed by NFT-like collectibles.
Virtual queuing systems to eliminate physical lines, and heavily gated fan meetups before a concert that are only accessible to verified ticket holders.
This is what the industry calls enterprise software as a service.
Right.
Instead of just taking a tiny cut of a consumer buying an invitation, they are essentially renting out the digital plumbing of a stadium.
So when a massive event promoter uses Gather to run a 50,000-person festival, Gather is handling the ticketing, the localized mapping, the vendor payments, and the post-event community building.
They become the indispensable operating system for large-scale physical hospitality, and they plan to localize this infrastructure in over 50 countries.
Which sets the stage for Phase 4, the years 2034 to 2036. And this is where the document really borders on science fiction.
It gets wild here.
They describe building the ubiquitous gathering platform and a metaverse light. I want to be careful with that word because metaverse usually implies virtual reality, but the text is very specific about light.
They're talking about augmented reality, or AR. They are not pulling you into a fully digital world.
They're layering digital context over the physical space you are already standing in.
Exactly.
So imagine you are at one of these massive industry conferences in 2035. You're wearing AR smart glasses or using your phone, and as you look across the crowded lobby, digital overlays pop up over certain people.
But, and this is the key, those overlays only appear if you share a verified attended history with them.
Or if you share a hyper-specific professional mutual connection, it cuts through the chaos of a crowded room.
It really does.
But the feature that absolutely floored me in this phase is Gather Advisor.
The AI Oracle.
We have to talk about the mechanics of this because it is staggering. We are all used to AI that generates text or images, but the Gather Advisor is an algorithm that actively scans your life goals and tells you exactly which physical room you need to stand in to achieve them.
It is attempting to algorithmically reverse engineer serendipity.
Right. If I tell the app I am looking to switch careers and become a graphic designer, or I am single and looking for a partner who loves avant-garde jazz,
The advisor scans the entire global database of upcoming events, cross-references the guest lists, and says, you need to buy a ticket to this specific warehouse show on Friday night.
it's insane. It's literally turning social mobility into a computable math problem.
It is.
But looking at all of this, I have to push back on the financial projections included in the text because the numbers are just astronomical.
They are very high.
The document projects that by year 7 to 10 of this plan, Gather Inc. will be generating between $30 billion and $80 billion annually. They are mapping a path to a $100 billion valuation.
For a company that started out charging a few pennies for digital envelopes.
Exactly. Where on earth is $80 billion in revenue coming from?
Well, you have to look at the macroeconomics of what they are trying to capture. They are not just selling software. Look at the projected revenue mix.
Okay, break it down.
40% comes from core transaction fees. That means taking a percentage of every massive festival ticket sold, every caterer booked, every venue rented, and every cost split between friends.
Right, they are processing the payments.
Another 25% comes from subscriptions, like a premium Gather Pass that might offer priority queuing at concerts or advanced matching on the Stark dating module.
And the rest?
Another 20% is marketplace commissions from their network of verified vendors. The global economy of physical hospitality, live entertainment, and localized services is worth trillions of dollars.
And currently, it is highly fragmented.
Very. You buy a ticket on one app, split the ride on another, hire a caterer on a third, and post photos on a fourth. Gather Inc. is attempting to unify that entire funnel.
So if they own the initial discovery, the payment processing, the logistical execution, and the post-event social memory.
A $100 billion valuation is simply a fraction of the value they are routing through their servers.
They're essentially building a toll booth on human social interaction.
It is a breathtakingly aggressive corporate vision.
But to fully internalize this document, we have to pull the lens back. We have to look at the ecosystem where this roadmap was actually published.
Because context changes the entire meaning of the text.
It really does. We established early on that this comes from a blog called Netizen, authored by Paramendra Kumar Bhagat.
Yes.
If you look at the sidebar and the archives of this site provided in our source material, it is a sprawling, deeply intense archive of futuristic thought.
It's quite a collection.
Just to give you an idea of the intellectual terrain we're dealing with here, let me read some of the other book titles and article categories sitting right next to this Gather Inc. roadmap.
Go for it.
We have titles like Lumina AI, The $1 Trillion Sun, Precigenetics, The Technology That Lets Us Watch Life Think, and Kelkyism, The Economic and Spiritual Blueprint.
It is an ecosystem that blends highly speculative hard tech forecasting with macroeconomic theory and almost spiritual utopian blueprints.
And Just to fulfill our obligation to impartially map this out, the blog also dips heavily into geopolitical forecasting.
Right, we should note those too.
There are titles like AOC 2028, The Future of American Progressivism, Trump's Trade War, and Peace for Taiwan is Possible.
Yeah, and again, for you listening, we are neutrally listing these titles to demonstrate the sheer breadth of the author's focus.
Exactly. We aren't here to debate the merits of a trade war or political candidates. We are looking at this to understand the intense world-building lens through which the author is analyzing a stationary company.
And there is also a massive focus on something called agentic AI, which the author says is set to explode in 2026.
That term is crucial to understanding the AI oracle we discussed earlier.
It is.
I hear agentic AI thrown around a lot in these speculative texts. What does it actually mean in practice as opposed to the generative AI we use today?
Well, generative AI is passive. You ask it to write an itinerary for a trip to Paris, and it generates a text document outlining museums and restaurants. It gives you a map, but you still have to drive the car.
Okay, so what does agentic AI do?
Agentic AI has agency. It is authorized to take action on your behalf. And agentic AI doesn't just write the itinerary. It logs into your bank, buys the non-refundable flights, books the hotel using your credit card, and drafts an email to your boss requesting the time off.
Oh, wow. It executes complex, multi-step actions in the real world.
Exactly.
So when the Gather advisor tells you to go to that warehouse party, it isn't just making a suggestion. As an agentic AI, it could theoretically buy the ticket, add it to your calendar, and arrange the transportation all seamlessly.
Yes. And when you place the Gather Inc. 10-year roadmap inside this specific blog ecosystem surrounded by trillion-dollar AI suns, genetic breakthroughs, and global political restructuring, the narrative of the company shifts entirely.
How so?
Within Parameter's worldview, the evolution of paperless post is not presented merely as a clever corporate strategy to maximize shareholder value. It is framed as an existential survival mechanism.
Wait, really? Survival against what?
Because if you believe that agentic AI and immersive technologies are about to fundamentally alter reality, the threat of human isolation becomes absolute.
Oh, I see.
If machines can do everything for us, and the metaverse is infinitely more comfortable than the physical world, why would we ever leave our pods?
Right.
The author seems to view Gather Inc. as the necessary counterweight to that dystopian isolation. The aggressive financial projections and the AR overlays aren't just about corporate greed. They're about proving that the physical world can be just as efficient and magical as the digital one.
It is the belief that technology's ultimate purpose is not to replace human physical interaction, but to act as a flawless catalyst for it.
It is using the terrifying tools of the digital age to cure the deepest sickness of the digital age.
They want to make reality so frictionless that you actually want to live in it again.
It elevates a party planning app into a piece of critical infrastructure for the human soul.
Which is a heavy, profound place to end up. We have mapped out a massive expanse of territory today. We started by looking at a contrarian startup in 2008 that demanded people pay a fee just to open an email.
Proving its worth by facilitating statecraft for Condoleezza Rice.
We dissected the intensely observant, aesthetically rigid mind of its founder, Alexa Hirschfeld, who used her Twitter feed to reject the hollow metrics of corporate Silicon Valley and the isolation of digital curation.
And we traced how that foundational philosophy, the insistence on physical presence, spawned a staggering 10-year master plan.
A blueprint to build a $100 billion behemoth that utilizes zero-knowledge cryptography, augmented reality, and agentic AI to fundamentally alter how we date, how we network, and how we gather in stadiums.
It is a roadmap that bets everything on the enduring, unyielding necessity of physical human proximity.
And that journey leaves me with one final, deeply provocative thought for you to chew on as we wrap this up. I want you to imagine that this wildly ambitious plan actually works. Let's fast forward to 2036. Gather Inc. has achieved its $100 billion valuation. Your social, romantic, and professional life is perfectly optimized by the platform.
The AI Oracle knows your deepest aspirations, and it flawlessly curates your social calendar.
Every room you enter is filled with verified individuals you share context with. Every date is a statistical match. Every party is the right party.
A completely frictionless, mathematically perfect social existence.
But if we achieve that perfection, do we actually cure the loneliness of the modern age? Or by handing the reins of our social lives over to a perfectly calibrated algorithm, do we accidentally engineer a world where spontaneous, messy, utterly random human collisions are optimized out of existence?
That's the real question.
The times you wander into the wrong room, the times you talk to a complete stranger with absolutely zero shared history, the times an unverified encounter completely alters the trajectory of your life. If the algorithm ensures we never waste our time, do we lose the magic of the unexpected?
It's the ultimate paradox of perfect planning.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. The next time you see a beautifully designed digital invitation sitting in your inbox, take a second look at the envelope. It might just be the first subtle data point in a much, much larger algorithm. Until next time.